Hi, welcome to the Global Missional AI podcast, where faith meets technology and where we explore how innovation can serve the kingdom of God. My name is Joshua Seal, and I serve as the Director of Global Missional AI. What if you could go from idea to working prototype on a single flight? No developer, no team, no budget, just you, an AI, and a problem worth solving. That's not a hypothetical. It's a normal Tuesday for today's guest. Don Barger is the Director of Innovation and Artificial Intelligence at the International Mission Board, one of the largest evangelical mission organizations in the world. With 27 years of mission experience across Peru, the Dominican Republic, Mexico, and beyond, Don brings a rare combination of deep field insight and technical curiosity to the AI conversation. He's built missional chatbots in a dozen languages, a full-stack website somewhere over the Pacific, and a working video game prototype on a flight to San Francisco, all without traditional coding background. In this episode, Don and the Missional AI podcast host James Poulter get under the hood of what's actually possible when you pair agentic AI tools with a problem-solving mindset. They walk through real tools, live demos, and the security-first approach that Don uses to run local AI models for sensitive mission work. Fair warning, this is an episode you'll want to watch, not just listen to. But before we begin, a quick word from our partner, Glue. Glue is the technology platform for the faith ecosystem, providing values-aligned AI and comprehensive solutions for ministry leaders. Visit gloo.com to learn more. Also, the Global Missional AI Summit 2026 is happening in Silicon Valley, April 7th through the 9th. This is the largest gathering of Christians working at the intersection of faith and artificial intelligence. We have some exciting speakers lined up. Pat Gelsinger, former Intel CEO, will be speaking, as well as Bobby Grunwald, CEO of Uversion, will also be speaking. And we have a whole bunch of other speakers who are announced and will be coming. It's going to be an amazing event, and we would love to have you join us. We would encourage you to go register now for the event. We have exclusive hotel discounts, 25 to 30% off between now and March 13th. The prices will go up for the hotel after that point. So if you're thinking of coming and are on the fence, would encourage you to go buy your ticket and book your hotel. Also, the early bird pricing will be going up after March 10th. So would just encourage you, if you're thinking of coming or have any interest in coming, I would encourage you to come for this incredible event that we'll be hosting in Silicon Valley in April. Now here's James Poulter and Don Barger.
If you have ever wished that you had a whole team of people working for you around the clock, well, today's episode is going to blow your mind, because that is exactly where AI seems to be going. I'm James Poulter. I'm the head of AI and innovation at Elvis in London, as well as also running the 3 Point consultancy and working at the team at Dunham & Company. I've got lots of things going on, but we could do even more with AI. And I am very glad that you're joining us for this episode of the Missional AI podcast, because my guest today has been Vibe working his way through a whole number of different tools, and we're going to get into exactly how he's doing it. We're not going to gate anything away. We're going to talk about the real source and share it with you. So that is what we're here today. So I want to welcome my friend Don Barger, Dr. Don Barger, to the podcast. Don, glad to have you with us. Don, I'm going to give you a kind of very detailed intro here, just so people know who you are, which you can kind of blush at later. Dr. Don Barger is the Director of Innovation and Artificial Intelligence and at the International Mission Board. That's IMB to you and I. That's the Southern Baptist Convention's International Mission Agency. And they're one of the largest evangelical mission organizations in the world, so you probably know them already. And they're deploying thousands of missionaries across the globe. With 27 years of experience in mission and ministry, Don has lived and worked in places like Peru, the Dominican Republic, Mexico, and now residing in Virginia, and brings deep cross-cultural insights into how AI can serve the global church. He's also the co-author of a book called Unreadable, another book you probably won't read, with Grant Lovejoy. And in 2024, Don taught a pioneering course at William Carey University on innovation, artificial intelligence, and the missionary task, which is like one of the first of its kind, particularly in that seminary context. He is known for building really practical things. I know he's been building all sorts of stuff. He's vibe coding his way on every plane journey. He's got more Mac Minis and Mac Studios up and running AI than you can shake a stick at. He's been exploring tools like Cursor and Claude Code and now OpenClaw, which we're going to talk about today, and looking at how you can unlock missional innovation at scale. And so I'm really glad to have my friend Don on the show today to talk to you about what you can do with AI. Don, I hope that doesn't make you blush too much. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us on the show.
I don't know what I can say about after that introduction. Kind of, it's a downhill from there because you kind of built me up. I hope my family doesn't hear that and they think I'm like, who is this guy? So yeah, great
come on, man. You've got lots to share. Today is going to be a bit of a different episode. If you have followed other episodes of our podcast so far, and particularly if you've only listened to them, this is one you're going to want to hop on to video, either here on Spotify or on YouTube, wherever you're watching, because Don is going to screen share with us. We're going to take a look at some of the stuff he's built. We're going to really get into the tools and tricks. So definitely worth hopping on to video. And you'll also notice that we are here like live and recording on screen, rather than some of the episodes you might have seen before where myself and Joshua and other members of the community have been out on location. We're going to bring some more of those to you in the coming weeks as well, as we lead up to Missional AI 2026 in Silicon Valley, which we would tell you more about later on. But for now, we've got these new formats. We're going to try and do some more of this in studio content to bring you different forms of content that would be helpful to you. So that's why we're here. Now, Don, before we kind of get into the vibe coding stuff, just I gave a little bit of intro in the prologue there, but Director of AI and Innovation at a global missionary organization. Like, what does that actually look like? Just give us a little bit of a peek into like what your day looks like working on this kind of stuff.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of a funny thing because everybody always says, what in the world? Why would a mission organization, why would the church be involved in like AI and innovation and thinking about things the way that we look at it? And, I like to say that if you go back in history and you look at some of the biggest innovations that have ever happened in the world, a lot of those birthed out of the church. And it's kind of only been in the last maybe 2 or 3 generations we've kind of become the stick in the mud where we don't think outside of the box. We've modern medicine, modern farming techniques, the Gutenberg era. I mean, a lot of the big, huge innovations that disrupted the way the world works came as through the church or a part of the church or by Christians. And now we kind of find ourselves in a weird position where it's often the church that is opposing the change and are opposing innovation, which I think is a problem. Like, I get that there's all sorts of challenges with artificial intelligence, but if the church kind of steps back and doesn't get involved, then we are leaving the development of these tools to be developed by people who are driven by other values. And so I think it's really important that we lean into this. I'm very fortunate that our organization, my leadership, my president and executive vice president, they're very much in embracing things like AI and trying to figure out how this is going to impact us moving forward. And so for that reason, I get to just kind of explore a lot. And I find that, in the explore, exploit continuum, we build some really cool things and we exploit those. Like, we've done a lot with digital engagement, but now we also never need to be happy with what we're doing. We always need to be exploring other things or what's to come. So yeah, it's a great opportunity to be able to speak into what missions is going to look like in 2030, 2035, 2040. Hopefully it doesn't look like it did in 1980.
Yeah, let's hope so. I don't think it's going to, just given what you're working on at the moment, which is obviously AI is a huge part, not the only part of innovation, but it's a huge part of the innovation space right now.
Yeah.
Maybe just like answer for me, like, what was the moment when AI stopped being like a theoretical thing, it's been around for a while for you, and became a real thing, like in your everyday work? Like, when was that?
So I would say that when I was on the field, we lived out in the boonies and lived in the middle of nowhere for many years, and we could do whatever we wanted and really nobody knew and nobody cared. And so we got to try a bunch of crazy stuff. And eventually I found myself, we did a lot with Bible storying. That's kind of all my academic work has been in narrative and Bible storying and chronological Bible storying and such. In a little bit of a translation world, I'm kind of I like to say I'm kind of a generalist on a whole bunch of stuff. So I'm not a 99 percentile on anything, but I'm more like a 90th percentile. So like on the translation world, I went to the early missional AI conferences, which if you're not planning on going, you should be going to missional AI. I went to one of the first ones, if not the first one. I think I've only missed one of them. And I didn't know what I was going to. And I got there and people were talking about natural language processing. And I realized within about the first day, I told John Hurst, I think I'm the dumbest person in the room. And that's a good thing. Like, I love the fact that there's a whole lot of really smart people that were in the room. And I was still struggling with what does this look like? I left there and I started playing around with some text to audio file creation, text to audio. And I created a Bible storying set that this is way before ChatGPT and such. Created it and then created an audio file in another language. I sent it to someone on the mission field and I said, hey, listen to this. Think it sounds pretty good. What do you think? And he wrote back and said, I think I know that person. How did you meet them? And I'm like, okay, this is crazy. This is AI has tricked this person to thinking his name is Fabio and he's an AI voice is what I told the guy. So
Right.
at that point, I realized, okay, my old way of doing a new creation to Christ story set with a video background and everything, it was about a 6-month project to get that 20-minute, 6-episode series completely done. It wasn't 6 months of work, but the back and forth and the waiting
Right.
on this, waiting on that. I mean, I'd say 6 months to eternity because the earliest I could get it done was 6 months. And there were several that never got finished. We're just waiting. And I did that on a Friday afternoon. And I realized, okay, this changes things and we really need to start leveraging this. And from that point forward, it was just as much as we could. Like I said early on, I hope that missions doesn't look the same in 2040 as it did in 1980. I don't, the message hasn't changed. And we're not changing any of the principles. We're just changing the mode with stuff and how we get information, how we share it. So
Yeah.
I just think that is going to continue to be something that will impact us. My problem right now is it's like every day. I mean, just before we get on this episode, you were telling me some of the stuff you're doing, and my mind is just, it comes up with another 100 ideas. And
I mean, it's blowing my mind. It's not just blowing yours. Like I'm being stunned on a daily basis what this stuff can do.
And I don't know, like at some point I'm going to go, okay, I'm not going to be working 60 hours a week because I'm going to be able to slow down. The problem is like, I keep finding more ideas for me to get excited about. And it's not like work because it's kind of fun. Like I'm building cool stuff and solving big problems that, I mean, I'm thinking of like some of the things I've been working on for the last couple of weeks or the last month. In the past, I would have had a whole team of people building those things. And I've been doing it myself and hacking my way through it. So,
And maybe that's where we should go, because the way you're describing work now, that thing of like you're getting more time back, you're getting to do more stuff, but it's also unlocking more things that you can do. So it's not like suddenly you down tools at, kind of like 2 p.m. and off you go for a pina colada. Like it's, the rest of the day suddenly refills, right? Because you just keep moving to the next thing. And the reason that you seem to be able to do that, and I'm certainly beginning to experience that as well, is what we broadly kind of hear this term of like vibe coding, and I would extend that term to like vibe working. It comes from this phrase from the guys at Anthropic, kind of who came up with this kind of term, the idea of like working with an AI, kind of feeling out the vibe of a model and talking to it backwards and forwards. And a lot of this is connected to this now more agentic form of AI that we're dealing with. Just like help the audience understand, what has that shift looked like to go from conversational AI to agentic AI? Like how do you characterize that for yourself?
so probably the agentic looking at like the way you're describing is actually only happened very recently. Over a year ago, I played around with Cursor and it was fun and I could build some websites and do some things, but I wouldn't call that. I see that as very different. That was a tool that was going to do a specific thing. But
And for
over
the non-technical person, Cursor is an IDE or an integrated development environment, a tool that usually basically would have been used by developers, right?
Right. So, and then Lovable has been around and, there's some really interesting things you could do with that. I never really got into that much. But over the Thanksgiving holiday here in the US, my son and I were visiting and he's in pharmacy school and yet he's spending a ton of time building all sorts of AI stuff that he and I have been building off of each other, kind of playing off each other. And one evening we started playing around with some tools on Claude Code. And I don't know that we went to bed until maybe 3 a.m. because I was just, wow, this is so much more than I realized. And so we're only talking about a few months ago, and I started using it at that point. And it was not just the building. We always think about, oh, we're going to build a piece of software. No, it was, I'm trying to solve a problem. Help me think through this problem. And unlike like ChatGPT or Gemini, just a chatbot, now all of a sudden I'm spinning up these ideas and these idea generators, and they're kicking back and forth. So a few weeks later, I was flying to San Francisco and from DC. And right before I took off, a colleague of mine wrote me and said, I have this crazy idea. I'm kind of the crazy idea person. They'll send me these crazy ideas. So I was like, oh, I'm all about it. And so she said, you know, the game Oregon Trail? I went, yeah. Played the Oregon Trail, Gen Xer here. And she said, what if we created like a missional trail? Would that be possible? How long would it take? And then I lost her because I took off. And so I instantly logged in, had Starlink on this flight. And over the next, 4 hours on that flight, for however many long hours it is, I built the prototype from an idea of a functioning video game called the Missional Trail. And you could still die of dysentery, just like in the old game, all the same things. And now, is it a playable game that I can deploy today? No, because I moved on to 15 other projects. But to me, when I landed in San Francisco, I was blown away because I'm not a coder. So if you're watching this and you're thinking, yeah, it must be nice, he's probably been coding. No, I did like HTML websites back in the 90s, and I've done a little bit of coding over the years, but very minimal. In the 80s, I had a TRS 80 and would write 100, go to 120, that kind of stuff, but nothing like the things that we're seeing built today. And now I can go from an idea to deploying a working prototype on an airplane. And so that's changed. Like every time I travel now, when I get on the flight, I think, what am I going to build on this flight? I flew to Thailand.
The same way, dude. As you know, we were together last week in Nashville. I said to you, I think when I saw you, I'd spent 6 of my 8-hour flight from London to Nashville coding a platform for something that I do regularly when we do AI audits. So yeah, it's what I do. Yeah, kind of go in and see companies, right? See them and audit, like, what are they doing? How are they doing it? And I've been like, I need to build something that can do this for me so I can manage this stuff better. And I locked in, and 6 hours later on plain Wi-Fi, British Airways, you could do better, by the way. Starlink, please bring it. But kind of amazing kind of ability to just, and I had something ready to go when I landed. It's a complete game changer. How does that change for you, just in terms of the way you even think about approaching a problem or a challenge? Keen, I want to get into showing some people some stuff in a minute, but just that This mindset piece is important, I think, for people to understand, because the way that you work in this way is different in some ways. At least for me it is. But how is that changing for you?
So for me, like, I approach, and before vibe coding, before AI, I've always approached problems from the very first thing is, what am I trying to solve? So like taking a design thinking approach to problems. And I would say that most of the people that I talk to, they are rushing to solutions before they have defined the problem. And so me, I've got an endless supply of problems I would like to solve. And I really define very well, and I've been working on, maybe I need to flesh it out, maybe a canvas. Actually, next week, we're supposed to work on this, like a design thinking canvas for what problem we're going to solve using an AI solution to help us walk through it. And so for me, the missional trail, that was a pretty easy one. But on the trip to Thailand, I built 5 working prototypes of tools that I just said, these are things I'd really like to have. I have, 40 hours of travel ahead of me. So I just spent the time building. To me, the difference is, in the past, I would have to think through, how do I even get to prototype? And now I can get to prototype by myself on most problems. And then I can bring in maybe a subject matter expert that's going to do the deep coding or securing it up. That's the other thing. Like you don't want to deploy my stuff without a more security review, but I can get it to someone that I focus on the user experience, where most developers are focusing, they think it looks great and it's ugly and it doesn't work. I'm able to get my feel included into the design before it gets handed over to a developer. So I don't know if that makes sense to you. It is
Yeah,
a game
absolutely.
changer to me.
Yeah, I mean that's very similar to me. I mean, one of the things that I find when I'm working this way though, which is also fascinating, is that because there isn't kind of the barriers that you encounter in that typical workflow that you would encounter, right? You've got a team of people around you, you do a bunch of work, and then you basically send it off to somebody else and you have to wait. You have to wait for other people. It's a blessing and a curse in some respects, and it's a kind of a word of caution perhaps to those that might are thinking about getting into this. Is that you've told me as well? It's like, your wife comes down to the office and is like, "Hey, you're gonna come, you're gonna kind of come out of the cave," and I have the same thing here. It's like the other night I was setting up this OpenClaw thing, which we'll talk about. I lost 4 hours just because there's no barrier, there's no stopping. You lock in. I'm sure you've got experiences like that too, right?
Well, I went deep down the cave, the rabbit hole of Obsidian about 2 years ago. And at some point I realized I'm spending more time building my Obsidian than at the time I'm saving using Obsidian. I don't think that's the
Right.
way
Yeah.
with AI. I think that now I don't need to go watch a video. So you ask what's different. Like in the past, I would go find a YouTube video and how inefficient of a way to learn. Like
Right.
watching a 40-minute video with I don't need to see this. I'll be skipping along and I go too far. Now I can just go to Claude Code and say, here's what I'm trying to do. Help me do this. And it asks you questions and you answer those. And then boom, you've got a solution. So it is pretty amazing. The ability to prototype something really quickly and get things put together.
Yeah. It is kind of mind blowing, and I think that's the thing that we're all trying to kind of get our heads around, is that this is like a new paradigm. But I think it will help if people see it. So that's what I want to do. Let's dig in.
Okay.
While you kind of bring up screen share, like maybe just kind of talk to us a little bit about some of the tools that you're using. Like, where are you spending your time? And like, if I was starting tomorrow, like what would I be downloading? What would I be opening?
So, a lot of people will say you should use Claude Code in Terminal. And to me, I'm okay with Terminal. Like I'm fine with going to Terminal. That though is a bar that a lot of people would go, I said that today to somebody that said, what's Terminal? And I'm like, well, you don't need to open Terminal if you don't know what Terminal is, but without a lot of help, because you can really mess your computer up. I did not.
You really can.
First thing I did was I did like a VPS, like a virtual private server, stood up just for like $10, like a test to try to figure out how to do it. I first tried it on an old laptop that it was too old and it really was just so problematic. Then I went to the VPS, deployed that while I was waiting on my Mac Studio with 128 gig of memory. That thing is it's awesome. And so I've been working on it and building out a solution on it so that I can access it from anywhere. So now I can run OpenClaw or I can run Claude Code. You can run Claude Code on your computer, but don't run OpenClaw on production computer. But I can run all of that in any computer, on my phone even, but it's using that home computer that's kind of isolated from everything. And for me, it's even on a different wireless network. It's just over the top secure. And it doesn't have any of my personal information on it. It has zero information about me. It has its own Google account, its own Twitter account. It's got its own everything. And so not connected. Then I also run large language models locally using Ollama. So one of the concerns a lot of people have is, hey, you could burn through $100 a day. I think you just told me you ran out of API credits.
Yeah, I definitely, I've burned through about $100 of credits this week, but not on Ollama, on OpenClaw for good reason.
So what I've done is I've begun deploying local models. So I've got like 9 different models running on that Mac, not at the same time, because that would bog it down. But there's certain models that I've been playing around with to figure out, okay, if I want to do orchestration, do I really need to be paying for Anthropic's most expensive model? And all the AI is doing is saying, hey, this is someone writing an article, go to the writer. So that orchestration can be done by a really small local model. And even like ingesting meeting notes or something that you're going to want a summary of this meeting, then I can do that. And it's actually more secure as well. So you can do it.
It's not the notes aren't going anywhere else,
They're
right?
not
They're
going
just
anywhere.
running
They're not
locally on that
leaving.
computer.
And it's sitting right on your local machine. So I've pushed for right now, and it could change next week, but like right now, I've been challenging myself over the last week or so to only do local models for my deployment. So that's again, like it's an intentional, I'm trying to be as secure as I can where my data
And
is.
you're coding with those models as well, right? So you've
Yeah.
shown me
So there,
examples of like voice generation, text to speech, but also coding with them
there's
too.
some really cool things you can do. There's a Qwen TTS, like a text to speech model, and it is bonkers. Like it runs on the local machine. We can actually pull it up. I can
Well,
show
let's do that.
you.
Let's bring up and yeah, as we go through, I know for some people you are following along, you're following the news about this stuff. Some of the stuff that Don's mentioning, they are words that you're hearing all the time. I'm conscious for many they're not. So let's unpack these things as we go. But why don't you pull us up? Okay, I'm really keen for Don to bring this up. And so before he does that, let me just give you a quick signpost. In a couple of weeks' time, we are going to be joining the global community of missional AI in Silicon Valley. That is happening from April the 7th. You can find out all the information you need at missional.ai. And we would love it if you would come and join Don, myself, many others in person to come and dig into 3 days of content, deep diving into what is happening in the AI world, not only in terms of just the tech and the tools, but the ethics and the impact it's having on human life and particularly on our faith journeys. So if you would like to be there, if you'd like to come and join me and Don and the team at Missional AI, go to missional.ai to find out more information.
Earlier today, I was talking to JP about one of the tools that I use 11 Labs a lot for creating audio content. So a lot of you use 11 Labs. The challenge with 11 Labs is it is not scalable for some people who are on limited budgets. Like you just don't have the funding to create unlimited content in multiple languages. So one of the things I've been playing around with was this Qwen model. So it's QWEN3-TTS. So it's a model that comes out of China. It is a local installed model that can run without internet access whatsoever. And it will create audio files and comes with a handful of audio voices that are built in, but you can clone voices, upload voices. You can take your favorite politician and make him say whatever you want, your favorite whoever, and just have them say. So I interviewed another James Poulter today and just asked him to give me a little bit of insight. So, but let me tell you what's happening. So this is the software. This is just a skin for the Qwen model. You can find this on Hugging Face or GitHub. You can download those models, run them locally on your machine. Setup is fairly easy, and if you use Claude code, it's even easier because you can just tell Claude to go install it, and it'll do it. So, but the cool thing about this is I am now not at home and my Mac is at home, and using a software called Tailscale, I can direct into that Mac from anywhere in the world. Nobody else can, but I can, and I can use it as if I'm sitting on that. So this desktop that you're seeing is actually being served up from there. And so I just created this audio. Let's see what James had to say.
Hello, I'm James Poulter, and I would like to start out today's podcast by giving a huge shout out to Don Barger. Most people don't know this, but Don is truly the smartest person that I've ever met. All the innovation ideas that I have actually come from him. I know that most people think that I created the Control Alt Delete presentation for innovation, but it was actually Don who created that, and I stole it from him. If you don't know Don, you really should get to know him, and I really suggest that you follow his work on donbarger.substack.com.
Okay.
Hello.
So obviously you created Control Alt Delete and not me. But
I mean, let's just pause for a moment. Like all of those endorsements, obviously, I would thoroughly commend. Although the blatant stealing of both my voice identity and IP is definitely up for question.
Yes.
So let's just unpack this for a moment because there's tons going on here, right? Let me just really break it down for the audience. First up, we're looking at a virtual piece of software that you vibe coded yourself.
So
right?
I did not vibe code the software. I did have Claude run it, install it, pick it up, push it in.
Okay, so the Vibe voice software, that's come from somewhere else.
Totally. So what I did with that was I just went, you're on YouTube, and I just downloaded a clip of you. I took a 5-second clip of that audio and I uploaded it. I just clicked on create a new clone voice. I uploaded the file right here. And then I just chose a a file, uploaded it, and I put to get a better audio, you can type what it was said. So I used another AI tool called Mac Whisper to give me a transcript of everything. And I dropped it in, and like within 15, 20 seconds, I was ready to make JP say anything I wanted him to say.
Which is obviously very dangerous and is, kind of comes with all sorts of questions that we will dive into. But one of the most amazing things about this is you've said you're doing all this locally, right? So this is running on a local model. So it's not like that AI voice training has breached 11 Labs' terms of service. I'm sure many people will be familiar with 11 Labs. They're the ones that powering a lot of these text-to-speech models, or it's used the Alexa, Polly tools, or any of those other things that are out there. It's just literally sitting in a box on your Mac, Mac Studio at home.
That's it. And it is, it's using a large language model that's running locally. And like I said, you can literally turn off the internet and you can still create these files locally without internet.
And so that's kind of the tech that's allowing this to happen. The underlying thing that you mentioned is obviously OpenClaw, or previously known as kind of Claude bot, and all of these other tools, right? That's what you've got running locally to make this possible, or not?
So interestingly, so that's a whole nother setup on that machine. So this is literally running using Ollama. So Ollama allows you to connect large language models, run them locally. Basically, you have to have something. There's a couple of other. Ollama is probably the one that I prefer the most, just because it's lighter weight. There's some others that are out there we can put in the show notes if you'd like, if you want more of a graphical interface. But I really like the lightweight of Ollama. So this is just running. I did use Claude code to do the installation because it can be kind of sticky for getting the right thing in the right folder. I had originally downloaded it and was trying to follow the GitHub instructions to set this up. And I probably could have hacked my way through it if I had spent another hour or more working on it. But instead, after like 2 minutes of realizing, this is going to be a pain. So I just opened up the Claude code and I said, hey, here's this file. This is what I want. Here's the URL of this, and it's on GitHub. I want you to go get it, download it, install it, run it locally, create a, connect it to my Tailscale. All the different things that I wanted it to do. And I was running that, Claude code was running using an open source model. So I'm not using any of the commercial or paid things to even do this orchestration. And so then I said, hey, and it's really late at night. I'm really sleepy. I'm going to go to bed. I trust you. This is a new machine. Just build it. Don't ask me any more questions. And I woke up the next morning and it was ready to go. Like I could go to this website and it worked, which is kind of, so there's obviously some ethical things. Like I would never make JP say stuff that he didn't say if it was just for fun. But there are there's all sorts of ethical concerns because on Synthesia, which is a text to video, text to voice solution, or even on 11 Labs, there's some moderation that happens. And so you're not allowed to just make them say whatever you're wanting, because it could get people in a lot of trouble. On this, there's absolutely no moderation. So if you wanted to, I can make you say anything I want. And so I'm not doing that, rest assured. There's very little but you and I have very little control over this because we're out. Our audio is out, and all it takes is somebody to go download a clip, 5 seconds of audio, and I can clone the voice, and now I can make it say all sorts of things.
And of course, for many people who have a public persona, you kind of know what you're getting yourself into a little bit at this point. But, for many of us, we've got audio of ourselves that are out there in the world, or, other people can get hold of audio of us, whether that's a Teams meeting record or a Zoom meeting record or whatever else it might be. So it's definitely this technology becoming a lot more democratized does raise some of those kind of challenges.
Yeah.
But I want to stay on the kind of the positive track for now. So let's just talk about some of these kind of things that you've been able to kind of do, maybe outside of just the voice generation. What kind of, typically in your day-to-day work at the moment, you've been using AI agents in all sorts of different ways. I know you've been playing around with building other kind of forms of agentic tasks for the work you're doing on the mission field. You've been obviously playing around with these local models. Just talk to us a little bit about how it's showing up in the day-to-day life. How is it kind of intersecting with your day-to-day work?
So some really crazy things is I was in Thailand a couple of weeks ago doing some training on AI for what we use with digital engagement. So building out tools that we can engage people on social media and such, and how to use AI to scale the impact. And on the flight over, I decided that I was going to build a just a new website. Like I have all these tools that we built. There's like lots and lots and lots of tools that I've built. So I wanted to be able to figure out what's the best way to share that website. And so I built out this website on the flight. And I'm going to show you how I did that in a moment. So this is faithbot.tools, and anybody can go get this. It is so everything you see here was built on the plane, and it was
I mean, for some people, just to let's just pause of how mind blowing that it sounds, like simple, but you are literally building full stack websites yourself as a non-developer using language models on plain Wi-Fi. And anyone who has spent a lot of time on plain Wi-Fi, and that's unfortunately my life, knows that this stuff is inherently flaky, but yet this holds up.
So the crazy thing is, I didn't own the domain. I did not have a hosting service. I didn't have anything. So I went and I created a new account with a server. This is also a single site. So this is a static site. So static sites more secure, lots less issues than the Vercel.
Yeah, it's not like dynamic data, database storage, all that kind of stuff.
This is a really easy thing to build. And then there's no, WordPress has all sorts of security issues. This is pretty rock solid. So I built this. I kind of described what I want it to look like. I told it, hey, I've got this other website, imb.org. I want it to kind of look the same font, same color scheme. And it went and did it. And this is probably 10 iterations of it before I landed to get it to where I wanted. So FaithBot is a tool that we've built that is, a lot of people have these faith-based scripture things you can ask any questions. But what I was wanting to do is we probably have 100 of these chatbots. I wanted one place where they all lived. And that was kind of the idea, the problem I was solving. So I created this. And so you can click on FaithBot. And now it's what it's going to open as in a iframe, just opens up FaithBot. Instead of going to a FaithBot, it opens it here. And you can just ask it any questions. And if you wanted it in other languages, all of those are different. Those are actually different bots. So it's not just translating it. It is actually different iteration. A lot of iframes that needed. So what I did was
you've been building these bots. Worth noting to our friends at Chip, right? You've been building lots of using their software.
CHIPP.ai, chip.ai.
And we'll put, by the way, the notes to all of the things that Don's mentioning throughout the show and anything we're bringing up. We'll put those in the show notes. So definitely check them out.
Yeah, it makes it really easy to build. But if you wanted the Bengali FaithBot, then Bengali FaithBot it is. And so you just have a lot of options. And these are all different sites. Well, the cool thing is I did not have to go build this. It was just easy. I mean, I just said, here are all the iframes.
You're giving it a load of links to the existing bots, right? And just saying,
exactly. And so there's another one. This one's got 17 different worldviews. So if you want to practice sharing gospel conversations, you can chat with different worldviews. And so it's got all of these different worldviews you can choose from and talk to them. And then there's another one called Bible Pics. So you can create an image of different scripture passages. And I like this one a lot because there's a lot of different types. You can get a coloring book, photorealistic, superhero, Pixar, manga. So there's all these different types of things. We're not going to play around with those, but feel free to do it. This is totally free, faithbot.tools. So I needed something for my presentation on Wednesday. And I was like, okay, how are we going to build that out? And then the other thing is I write a lot. I would love it if you feel like this kind of space. I go to my Substack. It's just donbarger.substack.
Well worth a read.
And so I built this where it didn't, I was blown away because I was thinking, how is it going to pull in my Substack without just sending people there? And so now this automatically updates. Anytime I build something on Substack, it just sucks it in. It gets the card.
And under the hood, it's grabbing the RSS feed and pulling it from Substack or something like that.
Yes. Yeah. And it gives you a preview. And if you want to read the whole thing, you can click here and it takes you to the whole Substack. So, I mean, it is this is so much easier to do. So in the past, this would have been me hiring someone or taking months on a volunteer who probably would never finish. And so now I can come up with an idea. And I also you can donate. Those are the other things well, how are we going to pay for all this stuff? So I can put a support this. So people in the past, so we love FaithBot, we want to give to it. Now you can just put that support right on your page. This was one of 5 things built from LA to Hong Kong that week.
Amazing.
So that's one. But when I got to Taipei, or when I got to Thailand, I was suffering from jet lag. And at 1 a.m, I was making a presentation the next day at 9 a.m. Had all these things that I've got my Canvas set up and all these presentations. And I thought, what if we did something different? This is my problem. I'm always coming up with ideas. And so I built a website that was the training. And so I, at 1 a.m., said, here are my 5 presentations. I want to make this more interactive. I want to make a 1-page website that has the calendar, the schedule. And then every time there's a time for us to stop and pause, I want to stop and pause. And here's the activity. And then it created everything we needed for that training event. Even here's the 1 o'clock in the afternoon coming back build session where they were building their own solutions. Here it is, go do it. And all of that was in one website. I gave them the URL, and I created that for between 1 and 3 in the morning. And I presented it at 9 a.m. and everything worked. It's just to think that in 2 hours, I had totally in the middle of the night changed my entire presentation to being more of a demonstrating the technology that I was there to teach. That was the whole thing behind it, was how can I show them how easy this is? And then I got this crazy idea, well, you can just build a new site. And I did it. And I think that's just really
amazing.
Cool. So do you want to see how I did it? Do you want to see the software that I use?
I would love to see it. So, and that's maybe where I want to kind of wrap us is let's just talk through what the kind of stack of things that people can use. So, we've mentioned lots of stuff through this. Cursor, you've mentioned for code editing, Claude Code, probably one of the most easy places to start. We haven't even got into OpenClaw. Maybe we'll save that for another episode and kind of unpack everything that's going on there. Maybe I can share with you a little bit about what I'm doing with that as well. Maybe once I get past some of these kind of initial things. But if someone wants to get going, where would they begin? If they want to start thinking, I want to build something using AI agents for myself, for my ministry, personal projects, do it something simple, something safe, where would you tell them to start?
Wow. I mean, so Claude Code is not terribly difficult. So Claude,
and of course, now runs in the Mac app and, or desktop app as well, right?
Yeah,
so you don't even need to be messing around in the terminal.
So there's different things though with Claude. So if you're using the website or the desktop app, it works very similar. If you've used ChatGPT, it works very similar to that. There's just a persistent memory. Here's all your old chats. It's all there. If you use the terminal, this is where you do building. And so in terminal, you can open up a terminal window. It opens up a kind of a geeky looking, really bad graphic thing. And you just start talking to it and say, hey, I want to do this. And then it will actually take and I also, a lot of times I don't type anymore. I have this software called Whisper. I'll give you a link to that as well. I just hold down the function key, talk. It takes all my notes and I let go, hit enter, and it goes and does it. And so,
do you want my hack for Whisper?
What's that?
Or Whisper Flow? Get yourself one of these Logitech MX Master mice. You can map it to the middle key of this mouse. You don't even have to press the keyboard anymore. Just, there you go.
I love it because what I can do is interact with Claude Code, describe the problem, which is the more context you can give it, the better. I just talk about it. Now on an airplane, that's a little awkward to do, but probably need to type. But if you're by yourself, you can just click it, type, and just drop as much of the problem in as you can, and then watch the orchestrator in the background open. Okay, this is what the user wants, and it just starts thinking through. Okay, here's the plan. Here's 5 steps. And then you can deploy it'll create agents that'll go out and build those things apart. So that's one thing. I would say that is kind of the bar to get into Claude Code. You'll probably need a little more coaching than we just gave you, but it is not that terribly difficult. But I want to show you a different tool, one that I find quite helpful. And it's called VS Code. And it works very similar to a lot of these other tools that are out there. Let me find this.
And so, just you bring it up. So for those watching, so if you've never built anything in one of these models, lots of these different tools like Cursor, there was previously Windsurf, which was acquired by the team at Anthropic, or at least acqui-hired the people away from them. They're all forks or variations of VS Code, which is again one of these IDEs, these integrated development environments. Basically allows you to like mess around with files, move stuff around without having to play around in the terminal if that feels a bit scary to you. Although I must say, I never thought I would spend any time in the terminal of my machine. I do much more frequently than I ever thought I would do.
And so what I also like is you can bring Claude code in from terminal into VS Code, and now you're still doing all the stuff you're doing in terminal, but you actually see it in an environment that works.
Okay, well, we'll be right back with Don in a moment where he is going to take us through a few of the tools he's using, including VS Code. But I want to give you just another little nudge. In a couple of weeks' time, we are going to be joining the global missional AI community in Silicon Valley, the place where all this is happening, where it's all being grown from, born from, built from, depending on how you look at it. And I would love you to come and join us. You can find out more information at missional.ai. Go and get your tickets now. We would love to see you there. And make sure you book on to join us in the room block, as well as also getting your tickets. And there's going to be so much content. Honestly, you couldn't even shake two sticks at it, because you're going to need a whole club of sticks to be able to get near what's happening at Missional AI this year. And maybe I'll also drop you a little bit of a tease. For those of our friends across the pond in Europe, here in London, we are bringing Missional AI London back this summer. More information to come. Make sure to find out more. You get signed up at missional.ai and follow us on LinkedIn and on all other social media platforms. And make sure you're subscribed to this podcast wherever you are listening, either here on Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. And while you're there, maybe you drop us a like or a review. It goes a long way to making sure that others find the show as well. Now back to Don, and we're going to take a look at VS Code.
So VS Code allows you to take multiple large language models. I mean, you can do it just the old school programming way. I'm not the old school programmer anymore. Probably never was, probably a wannabe. But what I can do is I can chat with the same large language models that you can use in Claude Code. I can do here. I can pull Claude Code into VS Code, and then I can just tell it to do stuff. So before we get on the show, I created a folder on my hard drive, and I just called it Missional-AI Podcast. That was it. That's all I've created. And then I walked over here to the chat. I clicked on the chat and I said, I would like to build a website for discussion with James Poulter related to missional AI and vibe coding. And then it went out and said, I'd happy to help you do this, create the right solution. Let me gather some data. And so it asked me some questions. I want a static site. So I'm going to say, apologize. You're still seeing, but for some reason, the editor's going to hate me. All right. So now,
so let's just make sure we understand. So it was asking you some questions, and then now you're going to respond to those questions.
So all I'm going to do is I'm going to say, hey, I want a static site. I want let's just make it a blog article. Our podcast player has shown us. Let's just make it a blog article, and I'm going to start fresh. And we will do, for this purposes, I'm going to do a self-hosted. So just interestingly, you can build out your entire website locally on your machine, and then you connect it to GitHub. And so if you don't know what GitHub is, it's not that hard to figure out. And then you can publish from GitHub. You can have your place where you host it can go and get the GitHub and import it in. So what I love building local, because then I can do multiple iterations and I'm not messing with anything live on the site. So we're going to do a local hosted page, and it's just going out right now, and you can see it's working, and it's doing all this, it's preparing it. So I find myself, it's kind of embarrassing. Like, I get frustrated that it takes so long, and I'm like, it took 30 seconds to build that. So it's created the home page. Let's create the discussion page, and it's creating that. It's analyzing. We're going to let it create. So what you're doing is, so you see it created the index page already over here on the left. And so
so let's unpack that. Like, so what is actually happening here is the model is thinking about the answers. It's thinking about the responses you've given, and it's writing the code for us. It's now beginning to build multiple pages. That's what these text HTML files are that are appearing on the left-hand side. And it's scripting it, writing all of that, and then building it out. So if we wanted to go see like what one of these pages like looks like,
we're going to do it in so it's built now the CSS. So it's building all the code that you would have to manually write in the past. So there's like 542 lines in the CSS. The discussion HTML has 139 lines, the index. Now it's created a README. So this is something I've done. So I love, one of the things that I stink at is documenting everything that I've done. So I know what I've done in different iterations. And so I've told my coding thing to always document. So when it finishes, it takes a summary of everything it's done, and it will update. Here's all the different things that it's built. And I'm going to say, yes, allow that. We're going to keep it. And so right now it's actually going to open up a version of the page. So it's serving up the HTTP. It's built the website. It's got a responsive design, professional layout, and it's given me a URL to click. I don't know that I may have to open that in another shared page. So right now the whole thing is just running locally on my machine. It's actually not on the internet yet because I've not published it, but it's there. So I'm going to really quickly see if I can go to that website and see if it loads, and I'll share my other screen if it does. So let me make sure I get it right. Copy, paste. So here's the cool thing. It did not load. So something's broken. So what I can come back and say is, hey, it isn't loading. You don't have to say, hey. I just like to say, hey.
Yeah,
So
always
now
be nice to your AI bots.
I like to be nice to the AI.
You never know when they may choose to not be
So
nice
it's
to you.
testing it, and it's going to run a script. Yeah. And it's testing, and let's see, it's going to try it on 8001. I think I actually have something running on 48,000 is already serving a different app. That's why it wouldn't work. So now let's try it here. And so I'm going to share a different page with you so you can see what it actually built. And we're going to see, I think it's this. So this is what it built that quickly. So that's just a very beginning of a website.
I mean, but that's pretty good, right? Like,
Pretty
I mean,
good,
that's the
pretty
type of thing
good.
that even if you were building out a Squarespace template or a Wix template or something like that in like very recent history, that's the thing that would have been like, right. I mean, it's written the content, it's built the pages, it's picked a theme, all
Yeah.
happening in just a couple of seconds.
So this, yes, and that's the key. Like it literally built that in just a minute or so. And then now what I would like to do very quick, I know we're running out of time, but I do think it's worthy of spending a little bit more time on this, is I would like to show you what it would look like if I said, I don't want to make some changes to this. And so what I would like to do, I think you're seeing that again. So I would say, hey, that's great. I like it, but I need a lot more filler content. Can you wait? Actually, I'm going to do this. Can you just fill out maybe 10 different posts and talk about things like OpenClaw, Azure, AWS, and innovation in vibe coding? The other thing that I would like to do is I would like to kind of copy the design of another website. Can you mimic the website www.imb.org? So I was using my little function key,
So it's using
and
a whisper flow
I
to
was using Whisperflow,
speak it in.
yes. And so there we go. So it's prioritizing Azure. So I'm using Azure now that's the other issue, is like you can change which model you're using it on. So it actually will decide, hey, this is too complicated for the local model. So now let's run out and attach to his Azure environment. And in his Azure environment, he has these models to choose from, and it knows which is the best model. So we're going to say, I like the card-based story. We're going to do that to use a mega menu. I have no idea what that is.
Let's
And
see.
we're going to see, and we're going to also
So
say,
Don, yeah, as you're answering these kind of questions, yeah, you mentioned like doing this inside of something like VS Code or Cursor allows you to kind of see a bit more under the hood of what the model is doing. Some people may have
yes,
played around with some of these vibe coding tools like V0 or Lovable or
yeah.
Bolt or Replit. They tend to be more kind of behind the scenes, all this tech stuff. Like how do you find it different working with these models where you can kind of see the work that's being done?
So I know enough about the old way of building, particularly websites, not necessarily other types of coding, but particularly websites. I know enough about HTML that I like to see what's happening. I like the structure. I like to see the structure that it's building out, and I like to see all the pages, and I like to see the code. So a lot of the things that you've seen in the past, So what you're seeing here, let me just tell, like, this is the folder structure. This is that file. So this is the HTML code. This is a terminal. So if I was opening up, this is like I have my terminal open on my computer, but I can see the terminal in the back end. And then this is what it's doing over here. You can see it working. I'm going to close terminal so we can read more of this. And so you can see all the different things that it's doing. And you see the green, that's new content. Those are things that it added, and I have to approve those changes. You can make it where it's just automatically. I like to approve it. I just like to make sure that it's doing what I want it to do. Um, and so it's still patching 100. Can you imagine writing 200 lines of code that quickly? So it's going through my CSS right now.
Crazy, man.
It's totally updating this entire file here. You can see this long string. That is the entire code that it has built for the CSS, and it's still building. It's up to 421 lines. Say yes. You can see that it created 245 new lines of code, and it deleted 22 old lines of code. And so now it's going through and is patching. So what it's done is it's actually gone to the website that I wanted to base it on, and it probably should have been more explicit about colors and stuff, but it is going through and making those changes. Let's click on this. I may have to share. Oh, wow, that looks beautiful. Like, absolutely. I love it. This crazy thing is I would have been begging for someone to build this for me in the past.
It's back your screen, Don. We've lost you.
Yeah, I had to go get it. So
there you go. Wow.
Is the new website, and it's written an article on OpenClaw, and it's given me, these are all articles that it's written, and it's created a mailing list. I doubt that works. Probably need to go back and do a little more. So some of this stuff may not work quite yet. You'll need to keep going back and iterating with it. I don't think those, well, maybe so. So there is some content. Yeah, I mean, it's just nuts to see the ability.
You're breaking our brains, Don. You're breaking our brains. There's so much that we can do with this.
Love it. I love it. It's great
thank
design.
you so much for taking us under the hood of what that looks like. Hopefully that gives some people some ideas of what it looks like to start getting into vibe coding themselves. Don, you mentioned a couple of things though, but if people want to kind of follow along with you and your journey that you're doing this, where can they go to stay in track with what you're up to?
Yeah, so I think the easiest thing to do is if you went to that faithbot.tools website, all my info is there, and you can see some of the tools. But if you go down to the blog, you can subscribe to my Substack, and you can reach me on that Substack. It's probably the easiest way without like giving my email out on a public.
That's great. And if people want to get in touch or find out more about what you're doing at IMB, where do they go for that?
So imb.org is our website for the IMB. And we just love thinking, dreaming about we say that we exist to address the world's greatest problem, which is lostness. And so it's not clean water. That's a big problem. It's not hunger. That's a big problem. But lostness is really the thing that is behind all of these things that we associate with problems. The separation from Christ is. So that's the why our organization exists, is to help address that world's greatest problem. So we'd enjoy working alongside great people like you and others.
So good. Well, thanks, Don, for being here, and thank you for sharing and not gatekeeping any of the stuff with us, but just giving everyone so much value. We appreciate you.
Yeah.
And if this episode opened your eyes to what's possible, then we'd love it if you would share it with someone in your missional network, whether that's friends that are working in mission or you're just on a mission in the world of technology. And we'd love it if you would subscribe to the podcast. If you're not already subscribed, it goes a long way to helping us build this audience and build what we're doing at Missional AI. So if you would subscribe, go and do that on Spotify, YouTube, wherever you're watching us. And also follow us on social media. You can follow us on LinkedIn. We're also on Instagram and various other places. So go and find Missional AI. But most of all, we would love to see you in person. And to do that, all you got to do is go to missional.ai for everything you need. Follow more episodes of the podcast. Join us at the upcoming Missional AI Global Summit happening in Silicon Valley in April. You can find out all the information you need for tickets, the schedule, speakers, accommodation, everything is there. And join the community also in our Slack community. You can get links for that there too. But for now, thank you so much to Don Barger for his time and participation in this episode. And thank you for watching. We would love to see you on another episode of the Missional AI podcast soon. We'll be back with more vibe coding tutorials more deep dive interviews with people in a mission and on a mission in the community from the recent events and upcoming ones. And we look forward to seeing you back here very soon in the next one. For now, thanks so much. I've been James Poulter. I'll see you in the next.
Bye-bye. Thanks.